Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video and the videos that follow, I want to go over the basics of making a simple drop-down menu. Okay, so navigation menus don't have to be that complicated for a web page, and fortunately, if you do need to use a multi-level or a drop-down or cascading menu, the techniques are pretty straightforward, especially if you get down the basics first. So that's what I'd like to focus on here. So I've got a page set up, and I'm going to go ahead and create a really quick unordered list. Okay, so this is the HTML for my menu. Nav tag is not technically essential here. It's just marking up that this is a navigation menu. And I've got an unordered list. I've got several list items. Let me go ahead and make sure each one's a little different in appearance. And each of these is a hyperlink within the list item. Now if I save this, head over to my browser, refresh, this is the default that I've got here. So to make this look like a horizontal menu, it's all going to happen in the CSS. In fact, I'll do a couple things first here. Let's see, I'm going to be working on a particular navigation menu. I'll call nav1. And by the way, in my HTML, I marked off my article as a nav1, so that way I can have multiple menus on this page and style them all uniquely. And I'm going to say on nav1, and let's make sure we're really clear on what's going on. Let me do a list. Actually, this is going to be my unordered list within here. I'm going to do a list style type, none, but I'm also going to put a border, 2 pixels, solid red. So we're clear on that one. I'm also going to do a nav1 list item. List style, I want to do a border, 2 pixels, solid green. And I'm going to save this, browser refresh. And I'd just like to point out that my unordered list with the red border and my list items with the green border are all the way across. They're as wide as they can be. These are block elements, and they will try to maximize their width. So if you want them to be narrower than normal, you generally have to set the width. Now, since I want this to be side by side, another trick is if I take these list items and I float them to the left, they're still going to have that green border, but now they're going to be side by side. And notice that they are not as wide anymore. So this has the effect of shrinking them down. And I think, okay, well, that's an easy way to get those list items side by side, but I'd like them to be bigger. Instead, let's look at the anchors inside of that list item. And I'm going to go ahead and do a display block, which I'm a big fan of. And I'm going to go ahead and set the width to 120 pixels and the height to 40 pixels. Now what this is going to do, my anchors are now going to be block rectangles inside of those list items. And they're going to force the green bordered list items bigger. I forgot to put in my nav1 up there. Let me save that. Browser refresh. There we go. So now you can see that my anchor tags are much bigger, and by making those anchor tags into blocks, the entire button area is now clickable. Now it's not the green item that's technically clickable, it's really the anchors inside of it. So if I had a border on my anchors, 2 pixels solid black, you can see that the black bordered anchor is inside of the green bordered list item, which is inside of the red bordered unordered list. Because my list items are floating, my unordered list has collapsed on itself, and that's why that border is just a thin red line. And you shouldn't really be bothered by that as long as you know what's going on. It's very rare that you have some visible background color or border on that unordered list, so if I just get rid of that red border, problem solved. Now for the drop-down menu portion of this. On the HTML side of things, I put my insertion point inside of the list item for one of my items, after the anchor tag, but inside the list item. I'm going to press my enter key a few times to get some room, and then I'm going to create a brand new unordered list inside of here. There we go. So within that list item, notice there's my opening list item for item 1, there's my closing list item for item 1, and within that there's a complete unordered list with several of its own list items, each one an anchor. Now, as soon as I save this, head over to the browser and refresh, things are going to look very, very scary. Oh, that's not exactly what I wanted, right? So what we need to do on the CSS is, now that we are using this particular kind of menu, we need to say, look, the list item is going to have a position relative, because I'm going to position absolutely the sub-unordered list within that list item. So now I'll do another rule for nav1. Now I've got, of course, my list items, but within my list items there's an unordered list as a child. And I will do a position absolute on that, and I'm just going to do top 0 px left 0 px. And so that you can see this, I'll do a border 2 pix solid yellow. So when I save this and browser refresh, now you can start to see a little bit what's going on. It's pretty messy looking, mostly because of this article, but things are starting to come together. By the way, on my article, let me go ahead and put a min height on this real quick. So that'll kind of stand out to you so that you can see what's going on. So you can see my sub-item A, B, C, and D are positioned, and A is just beneath that first list item. So if I adjust the positioning of that unordered list, instead of 0 from the top, what if I did 40 from the top? Notice the height of my anchor tags is 40. Starts to push it down a little bit. Excellent. Now what if I tried something like 45? There we go. It's a little bit further down. Now you'll notice that it is a little bit inset. That's simply because of my borders on here. So I've got these various borders, which is kind of adding to the thickness or the width of this particular unordered list. But this is the start of the basics of a navigation menu. In the next video, we'll just do we'll follow up with a couple extra steps so that we can have this display on hover of the parent list item.